So let's start. Hello, Trevor.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
It's an honor to have you. Thank you very much for being here. We really appreciate you taking the time. Trevor Sumner, would you kindly tell people about yourself? Who are you?
Who am I? This is the great question of life. I'm a born and raised New Yorker. I don't know if have you ever seen the movie I Am Legend with Will Smith and the zombies in New York?
Yes.
I grew up in that apartment right on Washington Square Park, right by the Arch, in the 70s and early 80s. So, kind of the gay rights movement, the skaters versus the B-boys, and kind of in this metabolism of New York undergoing transformation from kind of the kind of darker crime-ridden 70s into the 80s of greed and the 90s of prosperity. I saw thousands of people of every race and creed and color every single day. Kind of Greenwich Village was the site of art and music and political conversation. So I grew up in that environment. I ended up going to Princeton to study computer science. My father actually was an executive at Bell Labs. His teams were responsible for building C++ and Unix and the T1 line. And so kind of grew up in technology. I have a family. I have a wonderful wife named Emily, who is a fashion designer and also an Instagram influencer. If you want to follow her, she's E. Kammeyer on Instagram. And a son who's 5 months old and an amazing dog named Roxy. And everybody says that they have the best dog. I think I've got a really good case. She's a Frisbee dog. She swims laps in the pool with me. And in terms of the things that I like to do, I'm kind of got that metabolism of New York, right? So I was an adventure or am an adventure traveler. I've scuba dived in every continent, including Antarctica. So kind of focusing on seeing the amazement in all the world's wonders and traveling all over, not just for scuba diving, but for culture and for food. I'm a huge foodie, cook 2 or 3 times a week. We do Sunday family dinners where we make extravagant meals and we call it family dinner because we bring our friends who are family. And I think overall, as a person, what drives me, it's like I was a Lego kid, and just love to create things and curate experiences and bring people together and build. And so, that's a lot about me.
Well, that's absolutely amazing. Scuba diving in Antarctica. I don't hear this very often.
No, it's not many people have done it. You have to be a little kind of insane to think about these things.
I wouldn't have
Um,
to say this way, but I'm happy to hear you say this.
yeah, well, all my friends said that to me. They're like, "Are you sure? What are you doing? Like, what makes you think that you can swim in Antarctica, let alone scuba dive there?" And I think this is true of most of the world. It's like the limits that we have in life are the limits that we place on ourselves. And I had a friend who was driving from Portland all the way down to Tierra del Fuego on the southern tip of Argentina. I said, "Why not go to Antarctica and keep going?" And called me back. He's like, "There's scuba diving there. Do you want to go?" And by default, I think you should say yes to these things, right? And really test the limits of what is possible. And sometimes you unlock the most amazing experiences and the formative experiences in your life by just not agreeing that that limit exists. So I think that has a lot of lessons in my life and in innovation and in startups. But that's just kind of a mindset, right? And I think part of that comes from my father. He was a refugee from World War II. His family ended up being killed, and he refused to let limits in his life hold him back. He just, he had great sayings like, "When in doubt, do it." That 90% of our errors in life are errors of omission, not errors of commission. It's when we agree not to do the thing that we have these long-term regrets versus we did the thing and it didn't go so well. So, that's kind of just a way to live life.
Okay, let's start talking about Radiant and about artificial intelligence and computer vision. So, Radiant's focus on AI and computer vision is groundbreaking. My question to you, Trevor, is how do you balance innovation with practical implementation in this crazily fast-moving market?
Yeah, it's, I think the innovation has to be practical implementation especially in retail, where I've had a lot of focus. Is I think you find a lot of technology in search of a problem, and we've got this cool thing, and we just need to figure out how to apply it. And that's not how great products are made. Great products are made by talking to your clients, really understanding the problem, and then figuring out how the solution comes from the problem set, not how the solution comes from some technology that we're trying to apply. And so, innovation is about how it gets implemented, how it impacts the customer, how it changes their life. Now, I think the challenge is, you want to make sure that there are lots of ways to incrementally improve things. And, if you're really trying to innovate, incremental improvement or incremental innovation, will not win the day in a fast moving world, like you mentioned, where, you really are looking for disruptive opportunities where the dynamics in the market are changing because of access to data, changing consumer behaviors like the mobile phone, new technologies like AI that open up capabilities like large language models that can actually understand the questions you ask and respond thoughtfully most of the time. And so then the question is, what are these problem sets that we agreed that we couldn't solve because we didn't have the tools? Now we do have the tools. Let's revisit those problems. But I think you have to come at it again with the notion of, what is the problem first, and kind of come at it with a child's mind and an imagination, not just of what's been unlocked right now with technology, but especially to your point, in this fast moving world, where is AI going to be in a year? So I'll give you an example. Right now, there's a technology in AI called retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. And basically with RAG, that's what powers a lot of these chatbots about customer service. You feed it all your product information, and then it answers your questions. Well, it can only take so much data. It's called its context size. And it's a little bit limiting. But a year from now, it's going to be 4x. So when you build your companies, when you build your tools, you shouldn't be thinking about, what is the current limitation, but what is the limitation going to be next year and in 4 years? And if you can, Wayne Gretzky, who is a great hockey player, once said, how do you score so many goals? He goes, just skate to where the puck is going to be, right? And so that's a little bit of the understanding the market, understanding where things are going, having some vision so that you can understand where the puck is going to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Trevor, it's amazing what AI is already today doing. And it's only absolutely mesmerizing when you think of what it could be doing in the near future. Now, if you add machine learning to this, the potential is limitless. In your experience, if we're talking about in-store experience in retail, how could this combination of artificial intelligence with machine learning enhance the user experience?
Yes. So there's so many great examples. And it's funny, I'm so much more bullish about the physical store than e-commerce. Everybody, we've been hearing about how physical stores are dead, physical retail is dead, brick and mortar is dead. And it's so funny to me because it grows every year,
Yes.
from anywhere from 2 to 5%. It's like saying, hey, I'm on a diet and, it's going really, really well. And you say, well, how's it going? And it's like, well, I'm gaining 5 pounds every year. Like, you'd be like, what are you talking about? You're not on a diet. You're not losing weight. But that's what we're dealing with in this notion that physical retail is dying. But what's interesting is that e-commerce has really eked out so much technology innovation, so that new technologies will, eke out a little bit more. Like, here's 2%, 5%. But if you look at the systems in physical retail, most of them were designed in the 80s, the 90s. Go to a grocery store. It's the same format since 1950. And so there's so much opportunity to think about the in-store customer experience of the future. So what does AI and ML and computer vision, how will that usher some of that in? So at Radiant, we use digital screens. You could call them digital signage. We hate being called digital signage because most digital signage was also built in like the 80s and 90s, and it just isn't very good. And you see these blue screens of death, and it's not interactive and it's not intelligent. So we hate being called digital signage because most digital signage is terrible. We think of ourselves as a digital experience platform. And my job is to make it the most intelligent digital experience platform. So what does that mean? So one, we just like this video right here. We have cameras that can see who's in front of the screen. Are they male? Are they female? Are they old? Are they young? Are they walking by? Are they turning their head? Are they watching? And so, we basically have the people intelligence to tell you which content is best at converting people. You can personalize in real time. You see a kid in front of the screen at a quick service restaurant, you promote the Happy Meal, et cetera. We also have technology where you go up to a shelf and you pick up a product and it tells you about the product in your hand, right? Without having to tag the product with RFID or anything, it just knows, right? And so the way I think about that is, kind of online, you click on a product to get more information. In store, that click is picking up the product. So we're actually instrumenting the clicks in physical retail. And if you think about how that unlocks the world in intelligence and understanding what content can get me from, picking up the iPhone and getting me to buy the AirPods as a cross sell, or getting me to give me all the information about the product in my hand, the videos, the ratings, reviews. So really just kind of, if you think about computer vision, understanding the spaces, but also thinking about how technology can understand the context of what you're doing. There's a lot of interesting work being done on shopping carts and making them smarter. So Instacart has the Caper cart. There's also an interesting company called Quick Cart, KWIK cart, that as soon as you put the product in the basket, it knows what's in there. It can help guide you with coupons. It can tell you about, there's 2-for-1 deals, so you'll get the second one. It'll allow you to kind of check out without having to go, scan all your items. So kind of through every one of these customer touch points, we have the opportunity to provide intelligence, digital, and messaging. And then the last part of that is, how do we communicate more directly with the shopper in the store? And right now, we're kind of tethered to our phones because that's really our communication device. And that has, we really haven't used phones as much to augment and enhance the shopper experience. In fact, I would actually argue that when you see people on their phones while shopping, it actually detracts from the shopping experience. I mean, you don't want to walk around the store with a phone in front of you. It takes you away from the experience of the store and puts you in the experience of a 4-inch screen. And that said, there's some things that you can do in messaging. And, there's Bluetooth, but Bluetooth's not reliable. There's NFC. Apple had this kind of applet technology where it could communicate without having to fully download the app. That hasn't really taken off. We haven't cracked that code. And I think the next great frontier is thinking through like augmented reality and some of the glasses where we can overlay the digital world and digital information on top of the physical world. So as I walk by, it tells me where the ingredients are. If I pick up a product that says, no, that has gluten and you're gluten-free. And that's, we're currently working with the Women, Infant, Child program at Radiant. And one of the big questions is, is this item part of my, food stamp and Women, Infant, Child program? And so, all of that it creates friction, and it creates even psychological friction to even have to ask these questions. And so we provide a kiosk where you can scan the item, but even that is more effort. So if we can make the information come to you through augmented reality glasses, that's when I think a lot of this is going to really unlock, so we can get away from holding our mobile phones and getting in the way of our own shopper journeys and really kind of let the digital come to us.
Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Thank you very much for sharing this. Let me ask you, Trevor, about when Radiant acquired Perch, right?
Yeah.
Perch had its own experience of in-store product marketing engagement, right? My question to you is, after this merger, how did this experience at Perch influence Radiant?
Yeah, I mean, it was such a wonderful acquisition. Radiant hadn't had that much exposure to retail in part because it didn't have that computer vision and that data around instrumenting the clicks, the physical pickups at the shelf. But what they did have is this amazingly robust platform, with hundreds of thousands of devices, that with 99.9% reliability and just a great engineering team and a great product team. And so what happened when Perch came in was one, we gave them some of the leading retail clients. So Johnson and Johnson, which is now Kenvue, and Unilever and Purina. We were deployed at Meijer and CVS, at Macy's. So we were, three of the top 10 CPGs, three of the top 20 retailers. So it gave them immediate footprint and authority in the retail space. But more than that, it was really this notion about how computer vision and AI could provide these new streams of data, like this, kind of these instrumenting clicks. And that helped refocus the company on what I think will be the key differentiator for them over time, which is the data. So it's not that hard to put a video on a screen. It just isn't. It's hard to do that at scale. It's hard to do that with permissions and a robust content management system. I don't want to underplay what it means to do that at scale. But beyond that, the question is, okay, now I've got a video on the screen. How do I know if it's working? How do I know if it's engaging people the way I want it to engage? How do I know how to improve it and make this an asset? And so I think what the acquisition of Perch, kind of brought this focus on data. And so it's all this interesting data that I was talking about the front-facing cameras, which is through a company they acquired called Sitecorp, but also this kind of click-stream data, and then thinking through, they have integrations into the point of sale, so NCR and Toast and Stripe and Square and Revel and Lightspeed, et cetera, et cetera. So if you actually think about what we can do now is we can recreate the marketing funnel for the physical world. So we know we have traffic and we can see that with cameras, how many people are going by. We have awareness, we can see their viewing. We have consideration. Did they pick up products? Did they touch the screen? And now we have sales. And so now we can start doing all the things that we take for granted around why e-commerce has flourished so much. It's because it's data. It gives you a constant stream of how to improve. You can do A/B testing, all these things. Now we can start doing that in physical spaces. And so I think the Perch acquisition by Radiant really kind of helped push that vision to think about intelligence and data and visibility into the brick and mortar world in new and exciting ways.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing this. Trevor, my next question to you is about the fact that you've worked for years with startups. And what's special about startups is that it's very fast-paced. Things go on very quickly. In such an environment, how do you promote a culture of innovation while ensuring high performance?
Yeah, I mean, I think innovation requires high performance, right? I mean, innovation means you have to think differently. You have to do things that have never been done. You have to toss away the assumptions of the past, the limitations that we put on ourselves based upon our experience in an industry. You can't do this, you can't do that. And then AI comes along and says, actually, you can do these things, right? I think there are a lot of unexplored spaces that lead to these amazing innovations. So, I mean, take for example, Airbnb, right? I invest in a lot of startups as part of Sumner, which is a single LP fund, and also startup advisory that I do as part of my work. And one of the things they talk about investing in innovation in startups is you have to believe something that somebody else doesn't, right? And some of these ideas are kind of crazy. Like, hold on, you're going to rent your couch to somebody and let them sleep on your couch? That's just silly, right? Like, there's no trust. Nobody's ever going to do that. Fast forward 8 years, you have Airbnb, which is the dominant hospitality company in the world, right? Bigger than Hilton, bigger than Marriott, bigger than all these guys, right? But it started with an idea that just seemed outlandish, right? And so on one hand, I think, you just need to kind of question everything, right? As you go, and have this high metabolism environment to just kind of pushing forward through uncertainty, this strong beliefs that are loosely held. So as you get new data, you can pivot, you can kind of re-question. We thought it was this, but now it's that. 90% of startups pivot during their journey because they started one problem set and they're like, oh, actually, this idea over here is really interesting. And they go to that idea and it just blows up. But it's about working the problem and working the problem methodically and relentlessly until you find that insight, that difference. And so, yeah, how do you foster that in the company? You make it okay to have arguments and to talk about problems. Never hide things because that's a killer. I think one of the most dangerous things ever to be said is that's how we've always done things here. Like that's a terrible thing to say. But why? Why are we doing it this way? Why don't people do it other ways? And then kind of reward risk taking. Not all the risks are going to pay off. So if you create an environment where people are only praised for the successes versus great tests that didn't work, then you just get people who are playing it safe for the successes. And then I think the last part is the startup CEO, or really the CEO of any company, their primary job is to maintain the dream, to maintain the vision that you're doing something meaningful that brings meaning to your life, to your customer's life. To quote Steve Jobs, to put a ding in the universe. And it doesn't have to be as big as the most popular mobile phone that 1 billion people use, but it has to be meaningful to you. It has to be meaningful to your employees. It has to give them context, and you have to care about them. You have to help them grow, because one of the things about a startup is you're growing, doubling, tripling every year. How do you make sure that those initial employees grow at the rate that they can manage a company twice the size, then 4 times the size, then 8 times the size, so you don't leave them behind, so that they feel that they're growing? And so I think the last thing is you lead by example, right? So, when I'm in it, it's call me at 10 p.m. Text me anytime. I've done calls at midnight. I've done calls at 2 a.m. I don't necessarily ask people to have the same work ethic as I do. But there are times where we have to, make the march, and at those times, everybody's got to kind of row together and put in the effort. I do believe in the value of hard work.
Absolutely. Hard work, hard work. Trevor, how do you think digital platforms could leverage AI to improve their customer engagement and personalization?
So this is one of the more exciting kind of areas for AI right now, because when you think about personalization, especially in advertising has been using AI for personalization forever, right? Your Facebook ad looks at 1 million different variables to figure out the right ad. It gets you to engage. It gets you to click. That's all AI, right? And has been for a long, long time. And so, as you think about how Meta, aka Facebook, or Google have captured so much of the value in the ecosystem, it's because of AI and their ability to kind of match and engage. So that's been going on for a long time. I think the question is like, what does customer engagement mean beyond that? And there's some interesting things that you can do. One of the things is really thinking about just what is your experience on the site from a personalization beyond ads? Like an ad's a little format, but like, how do you actually change the site and the site experience for each customer? So there's a company that Walmart bought called Zkit, and what they did is they basically took models and digitized them, kind of 360, and then they took clothes and digitized them. So if you have, let's say, 50 models and 50 shirts and 50 skirts, you now have God, that's a big number, 100 and 25,000 different combinations of model tops and skirts. And so when I go to Walmart.com, I can say I'm a size 6 or a size 8. I'm an Asian woman, and so the whole site can now suddenly be Asian, size 6, size 8, and I can see different tops. So I don't have to do all of the photography for all those combinations. And so now I can start exploring what looks like the real world in kind of a digital abundance kind of way. And that's fascinating because the ability to personalize the experience, to understand what the products are to me, I think changed things. I think there's a lot of work at brick and mortar to drive customer engagement. Various different sales associates kind of tools. It's interesting. That's an area that I would have expected tools to do much better. There are companies like Tulip and Salesfloor and others that have really tried to empower the sales associate, and just none of them have really achieved scale yet. Um, and so I think that's a big area. And then lastly, it's not sexy, but like retail, there's a lot of operational type stuff. Um, and I'm really excited about how computer vision can kind of scan the store. So there's a company called Augmoto, and what Augmoto does is on a lanyard on a sales associate, it's constantly taking a video of the store and stitching together a real-time planogram of what the store looks like. And it's from the guys from Niantic who did Pokemon Go, so this is like right down their wheelhouse. And the ability to have the data about what your store looks like, what products are out of stock, lack of compliance in certain areas, allows you to operationally create the greatest, like the best physical store you can to drive customer engagement. And I think there are like a lot of little things like that. Like out of stocks cost brands 20 to 30%, right? So if you can fix that problem and raise sales 20 to 30% and drive those customer interactions, that's huge. And then lastly, I would say, it's about adding digital experience to the store. So yes, Radiant digital screens. We have technology where you can lift and learn. You have virtual try on. So I can press a button on the screen and it puts the color of the lipstick or the eyeshadow. And so I can start exploring and engaging with more colors and makeup without having to buy it, without having to do little samples on my arm or on my face and look like, the Joker from Batman, right?
Yeah,
So there are
yeah.
going to be all kinds of tools like that. But the digital is going to explode through the store, not just through screens like Radiant, but also through electronic shelf labels. And so electronic shelf labels are little strips of digital that replace all those little price tags. And they're popular in Europe because the cost of labor is higher there. So, just the cost of changing the prices in a grocery store, if you think about the tens of thousands of SKUs, it's crazy, right?
Yes.
So, and Europe also has some regulations that if you don't have the right price, you actually it's punitive. So you want to make sure you have a digital thing that's updated. But these are also opportunities to engage. And things like QR codes and coupons and other things, we're going to start seeing digital creep in to all these different areas. So if you buy online and pick up in store and you go to a locker, there's going to be a digital screen. Everywhere you're going to go, there's going to be pieces of digital to help you engage and think about that next step in your customer journey, and also to track you with all this data.
Absolutely amazing. This is exactly how we see many of our supermarkets now in Europe are going down that route. I've even seen some supermarkets showing some products where actually there is only the QR code label, like there is no price. You have to have the right app to scan so that you can find this information.
Yeah, and that's critically important. And one of the reasons that they're doing that is because they need the value of your data is so important that QR scan basically allows you to cookie. Okay, so you picked up a QR scan for a puppy. I mentioned my dog Roxy. We now know you have a puppy. We now know you have a dog. Now I can market you when you're online or in the app and the email about dog food and dog treats and dog toys. And I don't know are you a dog owner?
No.
No. So I'll buy, if I see a toy that I like I'm just gonna buy it. I like
know.
dog treat,
100%.
just gonna buy
I
it.
know. I know.
Anything to make my dog happy. I'm sure it's gonna be the same with my son. I just hope he doesn't ask for a Ferrari before 16. But so that piece of data, but right now in brick and mortar retail, it's this black box. We don't even we barely know who goes in the store, when they're in the store.
Yes.
Because we have geo data on our mobile phone, so I can kind of tell you who's in the store and market to you. But okay, I went to Carrefour. Great. What did I buy? Don't know. But now you could say he owns a dog, he has a wife, he has a baby.
Yes.
The baby's 5 months because I'm buying the size 3 diaper. So you can start building a picture of me, of my physical shopping habits. And now, not only can you use that in your own marketing, now people are using it in retail media, so that when I go to Netflix or Hulu or some of these other digital streaming, they have that data too, because the retailer is sharing it. And now I get different ads. And so that data is so valuable. And it's about to be unlocked in all of brick and mortar in new ways, which is going to create an amazing amount of value for retailers. And that's actually why when people keep on telling me physical retail is dead, I'm just like, you're out of your mind. You know, like if you're a grocery store, let me give you an idea. So retail media is about an 80% margin business.
Yeah.
Groceries a 3 to 4% margin business. So if you can increase your revenues by 4%, 5% using retail media and creating this advertising solution, you have just doubled your profits. You have just doubled the value of your company. And it's completely possible. So I'm very bullish on retail and physical retailers who have large presences.
Absolutely, absolutely, Trevor. As a recognized leader in product marketing, how do you ensure that your products not only solve problems, but they also create compelling user experience?
Creates compelling user experience. There's nothing more compelling than removing pain. There's like this notion is like, is your product a vitamin or is it a painkiller? Vitamins, I can take it sometimes, maybe. A painkiller, if I'm in pain, I'm getting my paracetamol. I'm trying to use your European examples, or Tylenol or Advil. I mean, I go to I play, I'm 48. I still play basketball. I didn't mention that. I'm a big basketball player, love basketball, still play basketball twice a week. Had a great game on Sunday. And it's like the type of love in your life that if it goes well, like my whole week is going to be partly defined, my happiness, by how well I played. But I'm 48. I got creaky knees. So like I take my 2 ibuprofen right before I play. I take my leave right after I play. Like that's a must, right? And so you really do have to understand the problem, right? And so the 3 most important thing there are talk to the customers, talk to the customers, and talk to the customers, right? Like to really get in there and show them what you're building. No, I don't like to see it like that. I want to see it this way. No. That data, that doesn't matter. What matters is this. And so, I think a lot of people have these assumptions about how it works or how it's always worked here or in the industry. And, really getting into the mind of people and how they do their jobs or how shoppers go about. So, when we think about digital experiences in store at Radiant, the question is like, what's the shopping friction? So we talked about virtual try-on of the makeup. Like, being a gentleman, I imagine you haven't necessarily tried a lot of. Neither did I. But what do you do? Like, I want to try 10 colors of lipstick. How do you do it? Like, do you put a little on your face and then, oh, well, if they're putting, who else has put this on their lips, right? So what women do is they'll put like, little marks on their arms and then like put it up to that's a real friction, right? What is the information that's missing at the point that, I've got the Stanley Cup, which my wife got me, so I drink a lot more water. Is this kind of safe to put in the dishwasher? Like, do I have to do a Google search and go to a product page? Like, what do people think of this? What are the ratings? What are the reviews? What are the videos that tell me about the products? Talked about my puppy. She's not so much a puppy anymore. She's 4 years old. She just turned 4. But okay, great. There's a really popular toy in America. It's called the Kong toy. It almost looks like the poop emoji. It's kind of like a pyramid with like kind of circles around it, and it's hollow in the middle. And I looked at it and I was like, why on earth is this like one of the most popular toys for dogs? It's just this piece of rubber that's oddly shaped, but then you put on the video and you put some peanut butter inside the thing and then you throw it. And because of its shape, it goes all over the place in this irregular way that looks like prey evading, and the dogs love it. And all you needed to show me was that video of how the thing is used. I'm like, oh, my dog would love that. But you show me just a piece of rubber on a shelf,
Yeah,
I pass on. So you really need to think like, how do you get shoppers to imagine themselves with this product? What are the frictions that prevent them from exploring this product and really kind of picturing and visualizing what this product can mean to them? And the crazy, I mean, just the absolute madness world that we live in is that 85% of transactions occur in store. And that's literally the one place you can't get product videos and ratings and reviews and all the things you need to make those decisions. And so I think it's really about how do we build like digital touch points that naturally engage in the shopper experience. No, you don't have to scan a QR code. No, you don't have to pick up your mobile phone. The moment you pick up the product on the shelf, we know that. We'll tell you about it. So it's very seamless. That's another friction, right? So how do we reduce the frictions, get you to the content, understand your needs, understand your man, woman, old, young, tailor the message, personalize it. And then part of that, of course, is the data, is to have the data to say, you know what, this isn't working. I'll give you an example. We did a fragrance bar at Macy's, and we were talking about what content do you show when you pick up a fragrance? And they were like, oh, we need the design of the bottle because that's a big story in fragrance. They're very proud of how they designed the bottles. They were like, we need a video. Absolutely. And they're like, ratings and reviews. I don't know. Do you really need ratings and reviews? It's like, whether you like the fragrance or not. Well, let's put it up there and let's look at the data. Turns out nobody cares about the design of the bottle. They just like the story of the design of the bottle. They see the bottle and the design speaks for itself. The video was the most popular, but the second most popular was ratings and reviews. And we can see that data and then start acting on it. And so, I think, again, I'm kind of hitting on this data and AI and personalization and computer vision all come together to provide us the type of compelling user experiences that not only solve problems, but drive, engagement. And on the way, we've won Clio Awards, and we've won, Fast Company Awards and Design Beauty Awards. And, I'm very proud of the team. And I think that also is a testament to really having a design mindset. We had a wonderful designer at Perch named Ivana Basic, who is actually a very famous sculptor. You should look up her art. It's really haunting. Her name is Ivana Basic, but she's an amazing designer as well. And so you need to build the DNA of design in what you do if you really want to engage.
Absolutely. Trevor, how do you see advancements in AI influencing leadership development and team building in especially tech startups, especially ones that you're familiar with?
Well, look, one of the great things about AI is you can start doing things much more quickly. You want to post a blog, you've got ChatGPT or Claude's a little better in my opinion. So you can write something and you can use it to be your editor. It can put it in your brand voice. And the reason I say that is like, there are all these kind of things that used to be very time consuming that are no longer as time consuming. So you can look at them and say, oh, I can create 100 blog posts now instead of 2. The other way to think about it is you can start getting out of the weeds of some of the kind of smaller task-oriented things and start thinking about leadership and team building. And there's certainly exciting tools that people are building in HR about skill building and courses and co-pilots that help kind of not just do your job like a coding co-pilot in GitHub, but also say, here's what, kind of a product manager level 1 looks like. Here are the skills for level 2. How do I build that? It can analyze your Zoom calls or your calls with clients and say, here's how it compares to best practices. There's actually, speaking of instrumenting the physical world, here's a crazy company. It's called Rilla Voice, and the CEO Sebastian Jimenez is a friend. And what they do is the sales associate is mic'd up, and they listen to the conversation with the customer, and they analyze it and compare it to the best practices and the best sales associates, and they make recommendations, right? And he's gone from 1 to 10 million in ARR in 1 year. I mean, he's just absolutely crushed it. But it's because of all these opportunities to understand, the different tasks that used to be black boxes. We didn't know what the sales, like I could do a ride along and catch 1 or 2 of that person's hours of the day. But now I can get transcripts of their entire day, and they have these questions. They're spending too much time talking and not enough time asking questions. They're not talking about this promotion or that promotion. So you can start instrumenting a bunch of these tools. I think um, another, kind of interesting thinking, about around leadership and tool set is how do we deal with remote work? Um, so Radiant is based out of San Francisco. I'm based here in New York. Um, and so how do I collaborate with people? And increasingly, I'm seeing extraordinary founders use tools like Roam, um, kind of asynchronously communicate with video, with Loom, and other things to be able to build these highly efficient organizations that are completely remote or hybrid. Um, and so, on one hand, that actually puts a much greater onus on the leadership at providing a startup culture, at guiding and having a really firm hand about the direction of how we work together. On the other hand, as if you embrace these tools, you can have visibility, real visibility into what's happening and where. And so I think that's really early days, but I think AI is going to play a big role in allowing us to work wherever we want, whenever we want, um, both synchronously and asynchronously, in a way that ends up hopefully giving us more visibility and doesn't lose as much of the personal touch as it does now. And so, these are some of the tools that I'm thinking about. There are going to be a ton more. I think people are very cautious when it comes to HR because there's a lot of private and personal conversations. People feel cautious about exposing that privacy, that level of privacy and data. But increasingly, I think it's going to become part of performance.
Absolutely. Trevor, Reddit has been recognized for its work with augmented reality, which you mentioned earlier, talking about customer experience in retail. How can augmented reality and AI converging to shape the future of digital customer engagement?
Yeah, we're just at the beginning, right? We talked a little bit about AR glasses and being able to walk through. I think one of the challenges there is, the people who are building the technology want to get ads left and right. So if you can imagine the annoyance of walking through the store and being like, here's an ad, here's an ad, here's an ad in your face all the time. And that's actually part of, like, we used to have beacon technologies where we put beacons throughout the store and they'd buzz you, but you couldn't walk 10 feet without getting another coupon and another coupon and another coupon. And it's like, turn this off, right? So I think depending on who owns that solution and the business model, I think they will address that. I think, having digital touch points for, kind of virtual visualization, like makeup try on. The other one is like furniture, right? So being able to with my phone and my camera to say, well, what would a couch look like over there by the painting? Oh, this couch is too big. What if I changed it to the smaller couch in a love seat? What if I changed it from gray to green? But then, the next level of conversations, and I did this great podcast with the director of innovation at Wayfair. Well, the other thing that you have right now on your phone is LiDAR, which is basically kind of like radar, right? So it actually can physically map your surroundings. And so by literally walking around my apartment, it can create a digital twin of exactly the measurements, every nook, every cranny. And there are people who are starting to use this for, like, if you're an HVAC repairman or a window repairman, something like 20% of the measurements have some type of error in it. Now you got to go back, you got to redo the windows, it's super costly. Now I can get exact measurements to the millimeter. But now I can also, like, create this digital twin of my apartment, go into, Wayfair's, flagship store or a CB2 or a Container Store and say, hey, I need to design this for my house. And we'll create a 3D model, we'll explore it. What if we knock down that wall? What would that look like? Oh, cool. Look, you can actually do all those things. And so, a lot of this is about, kind of connecting and exploring the physical world. And so for the first time, not only do we have, kind of video data of these things, but we also have 3D data. And there's a great book called What Technology Wants. And there's another good book called Homo Deus. But part of the idea is we think that we're controlling the AI when, in some ways AI is controlling us, right? We like to think that we're the ones choosing the directions on Waze when the reality is Waze is telling us how to drive. Similarly, AI is thirsty for data it doesn't have, right? So it doesn't have, video data of the world, right? So maybe AI created Pokemon Go, right? So that you can scan the world. But then, the AI says, everybody's looking down on the ground. We don't have any AI looking up. So AI says, well, why don't we create the Pokemon Go version with Harry Potter, with the Quidditch? And now people are looking up. And so, AI creates kind of this incentive structure to create data that it doesn't have. And now we have phones in our pocket that can physically and 3D map the physical world. And so I think there are going to be all these incentives to explore this unexplored space. And we can have a great debate about whether AI is driving us or whether we're driving that, or whether it's about innovation, exploring unexplored places. But it's going to happen. And, for example, there's LiDAR on all your Teslas, right? And soon on all your cars. So we can map city spaces and then see where the potholes are, and that there's a crack in that building that doesn't look right, or it's leaning 2 inches now that it didn't last month. And suddenly, what can you do with this entire data stream of the physical world? There's so much that's going to be unlocked with data. It's hard to even foresee what that looks like and how we interact with it, how our augmented reality manifests itself. But it's going to be everywhere. It's going to be new. It's going to be exciting, and we're going to be super powered for having access to it.
Absolutely, and we look forward to having that. Thank you very much, Trevor. It was an absolutely amazing conversation. I really don't find the right words to thank you, but I can pass to you the greetings of the whole team here. Thank you very much, and we very, very much look forward to having you again on this show.
Mark, it's a real pleasure. As you could tell, I love talking about these things. Our lives are changing, and I think one of the things that really drives me is that we see that the more we interact with Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, the less happy we are. The more we become purely digital beings and climb into our pods like the Matrix, the less happy we are.
Yes.
I think the exciting frontier of technology is recognizing us as physical human beings, right? With physical needs, and bringing the technology to us in a way that enhances our lives, our world, what we're capable of. And I think a lot of what we talked about today is where those frontiers are. And it's all these technologies that are coming together. It's AI, it's computer vision, it's LiDAR, it's video processing, it's digital screens. And I don't think there's ever been a more exciting time to be alive. And it's great to be able to be a Lego kid working in a world with all these new Legos, thinking about what the world can be. So thanks for letting me riff on that with you and asking such thoughtful questions.
Thank you very much, Trevor. See you soon.